life, of course, nothing is nearly as neat and tidy.
Zach wrote the script during the beginning of the pandemic, so he would go down and write in the office and would come back like 5 hours later, having mustered up some new scene, and I wasn't allowed to touch or read it or like even just look at anything until it was finished. But we would talk through things, and we would plan where things would go. And obviously my position in this is that he is the director, and what he wants is that's literally, I mean, we are actors to just basically be there for them to mold, and then we come in and help kind of shape that. But I think it was really helpful us just talking through things. And then in terms of when I received the script, you know, the whole joy of coming to a script is that you get to fill in the gaps as an actor, and you get to fill out this role, which was already pretty much me. It was like written for me, so it sounded like me. And then just the little tweaks that make them real and don't just, they actually take it to the next level is when you actually start getting the movie ready and you're like, oh crap, what if we did this instead? And so it felt really natural and exciting, and for me it was my first stab at producing, and I loved it. I found it incredibly, I think I just felt it really relieving that it was actually something that I'd kind of been wanting to do or had kind of been doing on previous projects without really knowing. And knowing that I had fun with it, so that was great. And then of course going into the study of Alison and the study of what it is that she's going through, yeah, we both spoke to a numerous amount of people. And I spent some time with an ex-addict who is now an AA sponsor and leads groups for young people. So it was really helpful just understanding, obviously, the physicalities and the pain, what goes through their minds, what the actual struggle is about. And you can't make a movie like this without actually doing the work.
What do you think this film has to say about the opioid crisis in America that's so, you know, might help people understand the issue? Because I feel like in the UK especially, we don't always, you know, it's such a huge, deadly problem in the States, and we don't necessarily appreciate that in the same way. So yeah, how do you think it kind of explains the issue that might help people understand it?
I think the best way to sum it up is it doesn't choose. It can happen to anyone. I think the worst thing to imagine is that this happens to a specific type of person from a specific type of family, or happen to catch onto this drug first. And so, you know, it doesn't matter. People get prescribed things, and their life can change. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be about that. It could be that you actually were in pain and you actually did come from an awful accident, and it affects everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of following on from that, obviously the title of the film is A Good Person, and all these people, the characters in the film, are all going through their own battles, and it's their, you know, it's kind of the cards they've been dealt. And what do you think is interesting about that kind of moral quandary and what makes a good person, so to speak?
I think I've actually been explaining this to people when I've said that I was doing press for A Good Person. They were like, oh, and everyone says, oh, are you a good person? And I was like, no, she's not a good person, but she is a good person. I think good people can do bad things, and I think bad people can do bad things, but I think good people want to change, and good people don't want to hurt people. And I think that's what this movie is about, is wanting to change but being unable to accept guilt and accept fault. And in order to do that, you cannot change, you cannot go forward, because you need to admit that to yourself before you admit that to anyone else. And what does a good person mean? What is a good person? Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's true. And Florence is, you know, as ever, just amazing in this. Just amazing at everything she does. Yeah. But did you always have her in mind for Alison? And then how closely did you work with her to develop the character throughout the process? Well,
I wrote it, of course, with Florence in mind. She was the lead from the get-go. And then I wrote this all through the pandemic and during lockdown, and then I finally did show it to her, and she liked it, and she gave me some really valuable notes, and then we kind of collaborated on it. And then, of course, the character sings 2 different songs in the film, and Florence, because she's a singer-songwriter, was able to write those songs in the voice of the character. So that was really incredible and a really wonderful way to collaborate.